Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States, accompanied by Attorney General Janet Reno and the President of the National Association of Police Officers, Tom Scotto.
Mr. President, Tom Scotto, Bob Scully, America's top cop heroes, and most especially the families of those heroes. Good morning and welcome to the White House. We are gathered here to honor over 700,000 women and men of law enforcement, federal, state, and local levels all across the country, who put their lives on the line to protect all of us every day. The top cops represent the very best of law enforcement, and you are here as representatives of your colleagues, to whom America owes so very much. Whether it was at possibly the most violent shootout in modern American history outside the Bank of America in North Hollywood, California, or on the lonely roads along the Vermont-New Hampshire border, law enforcement not only does itself proud, but it keeps us safe. And the stories that these men and women can tell about what they have done to protect us should make us all humble and very grateful. America pays a high price for this safety. While crime rates are falling, so too are far too many officers. The least that America can do is to support law enforcement with the common sense tools which law enforcement needs to do the job and to be safe. Mr. President, nobody has done more than you and Vice President Gore to support law enforcement. By adding 100,000 new police officers, by implementing a smart, tough, and balanced crime bill, by working with Senator Leahy and others to provide bulletproof vests for the men and women on the front lines, you have done so very much. I'm proud to stand here today, proud to be part of an administration which has made a difference, and proud, very proud, to stand with the top cops of this nation. It is now my very great pleasure to introduce Tom Scotto, the President of the National Association of Police Officers. Tom, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney General. Mr. President, Attorney General Reno, and honored guests. Today we pay tribute to the hard work of America's law enforcement officers, and especially to the 34 recipients of this year's Top Cop Awards. We honor their service, their commitment, and yes, their heroism. Our award winners this year show what a big difference a single law enforcement officer can make in a community. In many cases, the brave actions of just one police officer can mean the difference between life and the death for many innocent persons. That is why, Mr. President, NAPO is proud to have worked with you from your very first day in office to strengthen America's thin blue line and to make sure that our police were not outmanned and outgunned by criminals on the streets. And we are proud to have fought with you to pass the 1994 Crime Act to put 100 more police on the street. And I might add, aside from the written comments here, I think it's important to add the fact that I could recall, I believe it was August 12th or August 11th in 1994, on a minor technicality, the members of the House of Representatives defeated that crime bill. And that evening, we received a call from the White House. It was the day before we were opening our convention in Minneapolis, Minnesota. The White House had called and sought the help of NAPO to put the crime bill back on track because the House was due to recess within 72 hours. And together, the strategy was put in place by Mr. Clinton himself, the President, and his staff, that we would demand from the House, the members of Congress, A, that they not recess in 72 hours, B, that they resolve their differences, and C, they give us a crime bill before they go home. And that strategy worked. And at that time, many people doubted our resolve to make the 100,000 more police a reality. And they said that government would never really fund them, that communities wouldn't want to hire them, and unbelievably, that they wouldn't have an impact. But they were wrong. As of today, we are nearly 90% of the way toward funding the 100 more police officers. And more importantly, crime has gone down across the board since we began our efforts. So, Mr. President, I will make you a deal. You keep doing the work of the American people, putting more police on our streets, and giving them the tools they need to do their job. If you do that, you can count on NAPO to come back every year with our top cops and show you firsthand how your efforts are making a difference. Now, it is my great, great pleasure to introduce to you a true friend of law enforcement, but not by comment, but by deeds, the President of the United States, William Jefferson Clinton. Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Tom, I accept the deal. Thank you for your work on behalf of the law enforcement officers of our country. I want to thank Bob Scully as well, the Executive Director of NAPO. Thank you, Madam Attorney General, for all the support you have given to local law enforcement for 6 years now. I want to thank the top cops, their families, and their friends who are here. And I'd like to thank the members of Congress who are here, supporters of law enforcement all, Senator Robb, Congresswoman Harman, Congresswoman McCarthy, Congressman Rogan, and Congressman Torres, who's here with some of his family. We're delighted to see all of you. I'd like to say a special word of appreciation to those of you who brought your families and the children here as a clear reminder to us of what we really come to honor today. This July, just a mile from here in the Capitol Rotunda, I had the sad responsibility as president to honor the courage and the sacrifice of the two officers, J.J. Chestnut and Detective John Gibson, who were killed because they literally threw themselves between an assassin's bullets and innocent bystanders. They gave their lives to defend our freedom's house. The men and women we honor here today put on their badges every day, prepared to make the same kind of sacrifice in their own communities. They are true American heroes. They have done astonishing acts of humanity and heroism, from crossing the line of fire to rescue wounded fellow officers, to confronting criminals armed with assault weapons and body armor, to nursing a seriously injured neighbor back to health, to breaking in on a person with a bomb that was partially activated and thank God did not go up and blow them all away. And one of these officers shot 4 times himself, including twice, once in the neck and once in the head, maintained his consciousness enough to save the life of a cab driver when the person who shot him had a gun at his head. The stories of all these people are literally breathtaking. I hope that the members of the media who are here today who are covering this will find the time to read the specific cases of those whom we honor today and tell their stories across America. The story of the brave officer from New Hampshire who dealt with that terrible tragedy, and the story of the officers from North Hollywood, because of the volume of fire that was involved in their incident, have been told beyond the borders of their states. But all these stories deserve to be told, and I hope they will be. Because we honor here today, as I say again, both the heroism and the humanity that reflect the best of good professional law enforcement. We owe a great debt of gratitude to our nation's police officers. And for 6 years, we have worked, as Tom said, and as the Attorney General noted, to give our law enforcement officers the tools they need to succeed at their jobs. We have worked to take back our streets from crime and violence with a comprehensive plan based on what law enforcement said we should be doing. New penalties on our books that were tough when they should be tough. Efforts to help keep young people out of trouble in the first place. Efforts to keep guns out of the hands of criminals. And most of all, efforts to put 100,000 more police on our streets. 6 years ago, there were many Americans who believed that a rising crime rate was a problem that would be with us always. Today, because of efforts like those whom we honor, we have the lowest level of crime in 25 years. Respect for the law is on the rise. Our nation's law enforcement officers are at the very center of this effort. They are cracking down on gun traffickers. They are working to keep guns out of the hands of criminals. They are working with local school authorities to keep our schools safe and drug-free. They are walking the beat and working with residents to prevent crime and to keep kids out of trouble in the first place. But as all of them know, and as all of you know, this is not a problem we can afford to just congratulate ourselves on. Our country is still too violent. We still lose too many children. We still lose too many police officers. We have to take some more steps. And today I'd like to just mention a couple. First, as Tom said so eloquently, all the cynics and the critics were wrong. These police are making a difference in our communities. We are well on our way. We're under budget and ahead of schedule in our efforts to put 100,000 police on the street. Today, we are awarding $30 million in new grant money to help communities hire more police. This will bring the total of police officers funded by the crime bill in 1994 and subsequent appropriations to more than 88,000. We are literally almost 90% of the way toward meeting our goal. Second, we know what a difference the Brady background checks have made to keep illegal guns off our streets. I am pleased to say that we will give states $40 million to help them computerize the criminal history records they use to do those background checks. A simple procedure that has already stopped 250,000 fugitives and felons from purchasing guns and saves who knows how many lives. These steps will help us to give law enforcement the tools they need. Last night, Congress passed a bill by a large bipartisan margin that will build on our progress, a bill I'll sign into law later today. It will provide states with more than $1 billion over the next 5 years to modernize not only their criminal records systems, but also to upgrade their communications and criminal identification systems. It will include legislation I proposed last year at the White House Conference on Child Care the First Lady and I sponsored, to help us build a new electronic information sharing partnership with state and local law enforcement to keep our child care and our elder care systems safe. I'm pleased that Congress has taken this step to give law enforcement more tools to make a greater difference. At the same time, I have to tell you, there is one thing going on in Congress that I am very, very concerned about: an effort to undermine the very Brady law protections that have helped to make our streets and our police safer. The legislation would deny the FBI the full funds it needs to do the most effective background checks possible, and would also impose undue administrative burdens on the FBI, threatening to bring this vitally important system to a halt. When we stood with America's police officers to pass the Brady law, it was a dramatic step forward. We cannot take an unacceptable step backward. This law is working, and all the fears that were raised about it by people who said good sportsmen would lose their guns and people would be subject to unconscionable hassles, it all turned out to be a bunch of bull. All it has done is save lives. Why are we trying to mess with something that works, that saves lives, that makes law enforcement safer, that makes people safer? It is a terrible mistake, and I ask you all to help me stop it. Now, this amendment was first proposed last summer, and I said then I would oppose it. So I will say again, I intend to oppose any effort to weaken the Brady Law and to put guns back into the hands of felons and fugitives. We're going in the right direction. Let's don't make that mistake again. Think of the stories here today. Every one of you out here represents or came with somebody who's up here today. You just think about how many stories there would be like the ones we are celebrating today, and we're sitting here thanking the good Lord that at least these people are alive. You think how many more stories there would be, not only to honor, but to mourn, if we were to turn our back on what we've been doing for the last 6 years. So I say again, the Congress has made a lot of progress. It has increasingly been bipartisan on this law enforcement issue. Let's not take a step backward. Now, before I close, let me once again thank the top cops for their remarkable achievements. And again, let me say, I want to thank all of you who are members of their families. In so many ways, you make these achievements possible. You share the sacrifice, and you share the fear, and sometimes you have to share the loss. We know that. Therefore, you have to provide your own special brand of courage, and for that we are also profoundly grateful. We honor all of you, your strength and your spirit, and from the bottom of our hearts, we thank you for what you have done to make America a better place. Thank you very much, and God bless you.